Welcome to the weekly DXdao all community meeting where we talk about recent happenings and to recap things that have been going on in product development. Typically, we start with Omen. And Geronimo, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, we finally released the new version, which includes two major features, which is Omen on DXdao and finally scalar markets. But the fact that this was like a cross-team effort with Gnosis and Claros and the DXdao team, there were like several delays, but we kind of finished that and we are ready to release. Because we had a lot of delays, we actually included a lot of other fixes to make sure that the experience is great on DXdao. And that's mainly it. Yep. Any questions?
So scalar markets on DXdao is the two big things, right? So it's very exciting.
Yeah, I think that obviously DXdao is exciting just for the gas stuff, and it opens up a lot of capabilities. But just even seeing the scalar market, that I think is just the first funded one. I think it's cool. UI first off, that kind of captures something really completely new, and like just looking at it, you can see it's like a new financial product, right? Because it's not like will ETH be above this one or that one. It's like this is what people expect the price to be in the future, and looking at on that scale is really cool. I mean, even just thinking about how you get like in traditional finance, like people talk about like the yield curve, right, as a way of like forward-looking credit markets, and like the way they're doing that is they're just putting all of these little basically categorical markets together, right? This is like yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, and you put them together and you can get something forward-looking like that. And obviously, like this is just rolling that into a single contract or a single financial derivative. So I think the scalar markets are really exciting, especially for the financial, like pure financial applications for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like it sounds like a complex thing, but if you look at the like market details, it's very simple. Like our goal was to make it extremely simple, and the only thing you see is just like a scale and where it is and where it could go, and the user just needs to know like, okay, this is the current prediction, and the only question the user needs to answer is like, do I believe in the current prediction, and do I want to push the needle to the left or to the right, like to the lower bound or to the upper bound? It's like a very simple question. So with like scalability on DXdao, I hope that basically everyone can participate in the question, like, is the needle on the right spot? And if not, I'm going to trade on it because it's simple. Like, I don't believe right now ETH will be at $1,900 at the end of February. So it's a pretty simple bet in my view. So I'm like very curious how scalar markets will evolve. At the same time, like, liquidity provision is very like even more a big question mark, but could be a very big thing for financial products. So like we need to explore it, we need to observe it, and a lot of things to improve. Like we have a huge list on things where we know in terms of user experience we can improve and should improve, specifically for scalar markets. And yeah, it's just the beginning. So I'm very curious how this will evolve.
And probably also worth mentioning that last week, a few of us here had worked on making a post on DAO Talk about this idea for an Omen guild, an OMN token. We're just looking at the post now. It's gotten a bunch of likes. Surprisingly, no comments, not really any discussion under that. So I guess people are into this idea. I think it's something that will probably get discussed more, probably tomorrow on the product strategy call. Imagine like what next steps might be. I think this is just kind of a proposed idea at this point. Are there any questions about Omen? If not, I think we can move on to Mesa. We have Martin. Would you like to give an update on Mesa?
Yeah, so Martin is here in the call, but he's not able to speak, so I'm happy to take over for him today. Yeah, a lot of things going on the Mesa side of things, like from a team's perspective, like a lot of work has joined the last few days, and it's actually looking pretty good. So as of now, we have actually Martin on the team as a product manager. Bertie joined us last week, who will be now working on the front end, and we expect like first drafts of the front end in end of February, where we will work on. Adam took over last 2 weeks ago on the front end and is now joined by Hamsar, which just started to contributing. And I am working on the smart contracts and happy to hopefully get Tao on board as well, who will contribute to the smart contracts as well. Yeah, so pretty powerful team there to deliver what we plan to. And we are meanwhile focusing on delivering the MVP, which we try to deliver end of Q1. And yeah, so there's some progress on the front end. Bertie is working on the design as mentioned, and also some progress on the smart contract side of things, which we hopefully can bring into audit end of February already.
Great, thanks, Nico. And good to hear about the recruiting efforts going well. Obviously, it's been a big need across the products to get a little bit more dev help. So that's good to hear. Any questions about Mesa? If not, then I think we can move on to Swapper.
Hey guys, so Swapper is moving forward. We're doing a lot of front-end stuff, working on both the governance UI and we are working on the farming. And farming is what we are planning for the next big release. And Federico's been doing some really nice work there. Yeah, that's from the front-end side. We are also looking for a team to help us with the aggregation of different swaps, and that's on our release radar, but it's for later releases. But I think that's that will decide when Swapper V1 will be released. So it's an important part of Swapper, and yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to help on the recruiting effort there for the aggregation piece. Been talking to a couple of senior blockchain engineers with Exchange experience, and trying to figure out how to see if one of them can help with this particular feature, given everybody is busy with everything. So, and the guild contracts for the governance and the farming contracts have both been audited now, and the audits both went pretty well. Just some minor changes being addressed, and both are. I think the farming ones are basically ready to go, and the guild ones should be ready soon.
Any questions?
Well, just as an additional update, I think we're the first test deposit for the adding liquidity to Swapper. I think the proposal has just been submitted. And so that'll be kind of the first step before DXdao is providing liquidity on Swapper.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yep, there's a test to deposit. It's like 5,000 DAI and some Ether, corresponding amount of Ether into Swapper using the liquidity layer. And yeah, hopefully that will pass and work and run next week. So we're waiting to see. It's like a relatively small amount as a test, and if that works, then I think it's full steam ahead to keep adding more liquidity. Any other questions about Swapper?
I think we will be able to at least test the interface for farming, hopefully next week. And I think we need a lot of testing for that, and a lot of testing of the contract. And I know we already audited, but like if we just click around, try it out, see if it makes sense of how we did it, because we're kind of doing something new here, and I see external teams struggling with this do-it-yourself farming, and I think the way we're doing it is pretty easy, but yeah, we need to test it out. So I'll probably share a link on Discord. I'm gonna be more active on Discord, and I know we talk a lot on Keybase, but I don't think the community is on Keybase. So I'll try to be more active on Discord and share links. But when I share, it doesn't need like it doesn't mean we release something. So the test links are not like live versions. So just something to think about.
Yeah, we should be very specific and careful with the test links. And another thing that we should mention is that Swapper was deployed on the Arbitrum testnet. This is part of their announcement for their latest testnet release, which includes actually a whole set of DeFi protocols which can work together. So that's pretty cool. You can check it out. I think things are maybe a little bit clunky. Some things are a little rough around the edges in terms of Arbitrum, but they're gearing up for their first mainnet release in March, I believe. It will be controlled by admin keys as they start, but the idea that those could be burned if things goes well. And yeah, I think what's really exciting about Arbitrum as a layer 2 is it is EVM compatible and will be open to any project to deploy. So it may be the first time that we see composability on a layer 2 on Ethereum, which is super exciting. And we, a bunch of us here are working to make sure that DXdao is part of that and involved in that effort. So, and it's an optimistic rollup. So kind of like Optimism. The main difference, I think, is that, at this point, the testnet for Arbitrum is actually open for any project versus with Optimism, they are doing some exclusive partnerships on their testnet. So I think that puts Arbitrum in an exciting position, and I think it's an exciting opportunity for DXdao. It's something to watch.
And I mean, we talk about it all the time because it's like our, it's a fact of life. But like gas is just becoming debilitating, like paralyzing, whatever the word is. So we could see, a lot of activity. And I was just looking. I think Loopring is doing around $10 million a day in volume on their L2 there. So I think that's a pretty significant amount. And so I think there's some opportunity for Swapper in that as the market moves pretty quickly towards needing it.
Totally. Any questions about Swapper? Cool. If not, Rails is the other product. No updates there. It's the development efforts on that have been deprioritized because there's not a very clear way that DXdao can make money off of it. It's still a cool product. It's still a DXdao product. Might be something in the future, but for now, it's kind of development's on pause. And then I think that brings us to lastly, kind of governance efforts. There's a few things going on development-wise in the governance front. We've been iterating on our monitoring capabilities the past couple of weeks. And the multi-call scheme has been installed, which is a really big deal. That kind of opens up connections to the Gnosis protocol relayer, which allows DXdao to make trades from the treasury. It also opens up connections to the Swapper liquidity relayer, which lets DXdao deposit liquidity into Swapper. And last but not least, it also connects DXdao to the bonding curve. So you can actually see test proposals for both the Gnosis protocol relayer and Swapper liquidity relayer live on Alchemy. Now they're kind of relatively small amounts of money, like I mentioned earlier, just to test and see that things are working well. And if those go well, they kind of open up, it's full steam ahead to do some bigger trades and bigger liquidity deposits on Swapper. There is not yet a proposal to pause the bonding curve, and the reason for that, I made a post about this on DAO Talk, is at the moment, Alchemy in the UI is not exposing functions that are proxied by proxy contracts. So basically the UI is working just fine for the relayers because those are not proxy contracts, but the DXD token and the bonding curve itself is actually using the proxy pattern. So right now in the UI, all you're seeing is like a couple of the admin functions for the proxy contract, and you're not seeing the functions that it can actually call in the implementation contract. So there's an issue open in DAOstack, and they are actually working on making that update to the UI to expose the ABI application binary interface, i.e. those functions from the implementation contract. Once that is done, then the proposal to make the pause can be made. So yeah, just a little front-end technical hiccup on pause and the bonding curve that's setting us back up a little bit, but still on track here otherwise. Otherwise on governance stuff, I don't know, Augusto, I see you're here. Anything to update on your end?
Hello. Not really. I'm just working on the DXvote application and DXtrust. Right now, I'm trying to make all the changes that we received from the ERC20 Guild audit, and working on that. I'm going to keep you guys updated. I need to add some documentation on how the guild works, how the ERC20 Guild works. Already, I was talking with Chris already about that because. Yeah, we don't have any documentation on explaining how it works, and it's going to be an important piece on our governance. So, yeah, that is what I'm working on.
Awesome, thank you. Anything else on governance? Any questions? Any thoughts in terms from the technical product perspective? We'll talk more about the governance call, of course.
It will be interesting to know what is going to happen on the bonding curve halting, because we need to make some changes on. I mean, DAOstack need to make some changes on Alchemy, right, regarding the UI for us to be able to hold the curve, right? If not, I can give you Hannah and encode the information that we need to do it.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that there's an issue open for DAOstack to expose the ABI from the implementation contract. So I think the best course is to wait for the UI to be updated and to allow the. I mean, of course, the proposal could be made directly to the blockchain, but I think we should wait for the UI.
And just for clarification, there's two separate proposals though? There's one to like control the bonding curve, and then a second to like halt it, or what?
Yes, but the one to control the one is the already passed. That's the multi-call installation, right? So that basically the multi-call installation, the installation of that scheme connect like one of the contracts that it's whitelisted to interact with is the bonding curve. So that step is done. And so the second step and basically the final step is to make a proposal to do the pause by increasing the minimum buy to it. And I
guess when the bonding curve was launched, there was like a way to allow DXdao to control it, right? Or like that was like built in. So
DXdao is the owner of the contracts, and what was missing is this plugin that like lets you do proposals to actually call the contracts, right? So I mean, we just never. I mean, this whole multi-call effort was like a somewhat serious effort to get installed, and yeah, I mean that could have been something we did from the beginning, but there were other things that we were working on that just didn't feel like a priority at the time.
I was wondering, the DXvote dep, is it possible to have it like on XDAI? And is there like, is that the plan or?
Augusto, did you hear that?
Because like with current, we don't know how long will this high gas fees last. Like, and the way I see it, like no one is using Alchemy. Like I won't vote on proposal if it's $150, like boosted. Like it's pretty ridiculous. Like.
Right. So Violet's asking if we could use DXvote on XDAI. So the DXvote is based on the DAOstack core contracts with some a difference in basically peripheral contracts and the difference in the UI. And so I think, yes, anything basically that we deploy on mainnet can be deployed on XDAI, including the current governance contracts and alchemy, which it actually has been cloned to XDAO. So like one of the things, we'll talk about this more too when we recap the governance call, but one of the things that could be done to save gas is to leverage our XDAO base, so to speak, basically the cloned DAO on XDAO to do some of the worker proposals and things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, great. Nylon here, do you want to recap the BizDev call? No,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we had I guess a busy BizDev call this week. We had there were no introductions, but Bogdan basically from Stater presented the possibility of the DXdao partnership. Joseph from Token Insight came and shared a bit more info, and that kind of, I think, sparked the discussion about, I guess, DXdao in China in general. Venki discussed some ideas around due diligence for IDOs, and yeah, perhaps even kind of like a what do you call it, like a checklist that we will do for potential IDO partners. Chris has had a few ideas about how to use UMA with DXdao. We had Neyman from Almanit presenting, basically the latest in collaboration with them. And I think that yesterday or the day before, he actually shared like the proposals that he will do. And I think that's it.
Awesome. Maybe we could describe to you what Stater is. It's an NFT platform, if I recall, or an NFT lending platform.
Yeah, lending for basically NFTs, which is pretty cool.
So in other words, if you had an NFT and it was worth something, you could get a loan against it using the Stater platform. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're interested in potentially doing an IDO, even maybe using Mesa version 1, and if it takes longer, potentially Mesa version 2. Yeah.
Very cool. Any thoughts, questions, or points on BizDev? Sky, I don't know. I didn't read it yet, but there was a Panvala update. Maybe we could mention that.
Oh, there was so Panvala community overall is growing. Like the Panvala League is now made up of maybe 26 or 28 different entities participating in the Panvala structure, which is it's a inflation matching that's based off of Gitcoin grant rounds. And DXdao historically did community DeFi awards. The latest quarter, we still have yet to come up with award winners, which we don't have the pan yet from the last round, but we still can make progress on that. If people are aware of important projects that are building things in the decentralized DeFi space that people think should be recognized and awarded with some amount of money that was taken in through the program. And so as part of that, there's more effort by Panvala in general to spread the word about what's happening. And so there's an initiative called the Panvala Observer, which is a new publication that is spotlighting different members of the Panvala League. And they did a recent article where I helped explain a little bit about what DXdao is doing overall, but then what DXdao's involvement in Panvala is and the goal of it. so that was written, and that you can see that in the Panvala channel, and it was I spread it on Keybase. And so that included in that is kind of a call to the greater DeFi community. It would be awesome if like the greater DeFi community participated in this program that DXdao has initiated, but it's really the idea is to have it like the entire DeFi community awarding the important projects that are underfunded but are yet really important in the DeFi space in terms of decentralization, and privacy, and like the core values of what DXdao is trying to achieve. So yeah, so it would be anyone that is interested in Panvala and wants to know more about it, they reach out to me or join the Keybase channel. And also any projects that are out there that you think deserve recognition that are not well recognized and should maybe want some funding, and that could lead into other partnerships and things with DXdao as well. Point those out in the Keybase channel or the forum.
Thanks, Guy. Yeah, great way to kind of show recognition and help support different efforts in the DeFi community that might be underfunded or in need of recognition. So thanks for the update. Should we move to governance? Always a lot to talk about there. Usually Paul goes over. Chris, you can kind of recap this.
Yeah, so I think we'll push the gas discussion maybe for more to the end. We can kind of talk about ways to overhaul the system there, because I think worker proposals we need to think a lot about those very soon, and not DXdao spending a lot of money on mainnet, and that is overhead that we need to have as an organization, but we need to figure out ways to do that. So I'm hoping that we can think about ways this week and maybe talk about that. A new process for next week. We had some updates to contributor guidelines that Pulp's been working on, some small changes on when rep is issued, and we're gearing up for an IPFS upload, and then we'll actually use XDAI maybe to ratify those. And then most of the call was spent discussing the Governance 2.0 signal proposal thread that is the results of the Governance 2.0 working group over the last couple of months. And so just a brief description of that. There's kind of three components of Governance 2.0, one being a new voting power equation, two being good governance incentives, and three being the migration process to the new system. So the voting power equation is the most important component because this would change the way proposals are voted on, whereas in the current system, only the amount of rep you have determines whether proposals go up or down. And in the new system, we want to combine rep and DXD into a single voting power to determine that. So we do that by creating a DXD influence and a rep influence based upon future commitments and staking DXD. And then the rep influence is based upon when you earned your rep. And then we combine them into a single voting power. So that one, I think there's agreement on the overall structure of that, but we kind of be leaning towards moving the weights of the DXD influence and the rep influence to 50-50 there. So I think that's a that's a good structure that I think it sustainably intertwines both rep and DXD into the governance system. And then a lot of discussion on part of the migration process to the new system. So right now there's rep holders, reputation holders control the treasury, control all of the 100K pre-mint, and DXD holders for a lot of the DXD holders don't have any rep. So there's a way of trying to kind of swap those a little bit. So that would be for DXD holders by having rep inflation that's sent to DXD holders to get them involved in the governance process. And then for reputation holders, there's a discussion on whether to and how much to allocate some of the pre-mint to rep holders in a vested contract. So I think there's still discussion going on there. I want to make a post summarizing the discussion from yesterday on the governance call, and I'll reply on the thread in that. I just kind of forgot to mention in terms of the voting power in the new system, one of the key components is that you need both rep and DXD to participate. So there's kind of, trying to meld those together. So there's not rep holders and DXD holders, but, DXdao members or governors that are participating that have both rep and DXD. And so, yeah, I think there'll still be some more discussion on the thread there, and hopefully we can move to a signal proposal. But of course, this is a signal proposal that is kind of outlining the general structure of a new system, but there is still a long ways to go in terms of actually implementation of that. Obviously, this is it would be a completely new system, so we'll have to write all new contracts, audit, and there's still some details to be ironed out in the implementation phase. But the goal is for this to kind of set most of the parameters now, so that we can just kind of execute and implement that in the future. So yeah, we'll still be some discussion on the thread, but I think we're moving there.
Any questions on the governance 2.0 stuff? Obviously, that's a big kind of deep topic and important. Yes, if not, we can talk about, there was other stuff as well, right? Like, we could talk a little bit about the radical proposal that is up. I don't know I think Geronimo is probably most closely involved in that, if he wants to say something there.
Yeah, so radical is a great decentralized competitor against GitHub. It's not ready for prime time, but I think the DXdao can be part of the decentralized movement by actually using peer-to-peer enabled decentralized networks like Radical. And the signal proposal is out to ratify a CEDA program with the DXdao.
Yeah, super cool project. And obviously, as a decentralized organization, we badly need decentralized infrastructure in order to run. And so much of the stuff that we do use, unfortunately, is not yet decentralized, like blogging platforms, GitHub, etc., project management tools. So yeah, I mean, I love to see these opportunities where we can support projects and then get involved in projects that are actually working on the decentralized infrastructure that helps enable what we're doing at DXdao and basically lays the groundwork for more DAOs in the future.
Yeah, and part of the CEDA program is that the DXdao is actually connecting to the Radical Ethereum contracts. That's up to discussion how this will play out, but it will basically mean that DXdao will create like a Radical organization very similar to GitHub organization, and this will allow us to keep a list of repositories which are connected to the DXdao organization completely on chain without any Web 2.0 provider required for like identity purpose or account purpose. Right, and we will kick off, like if that proposal actually ratified, we will kick off like a call with Radical next week, where we also discuss that like part of the CEDA program is that the DXdao will also get like a token allocation, which will allow the DXdao to participate in the Radical governance to make sure that we are like stewards of the Radical network and yeah, can govern and at the same time have an impact by actually using this very nice tool for us.
I'd forgotten about the token allocation. That's radical.
I mean, we always waiting, or we're looking for these solutions to go away from Web 2 and centralization. And another thing, maybe in the future, is to actually go away we want to put up our documentation on for DXdao and its products, and even technical documentation. We looked at Git book, and obviously it's on the cloud and it's connected to GitHub, and maybe we can do something in the future with a decentralized version of Gitbook. I actually bought docs.eth. It was expired, and I snapped it. So DXdao now owns docs.eth, and yeah, it's an idea. We could use it for our purpose now, and maybe in the future it could be a product.
DXdao growing its very cool portfolio of ENS names.
Yeah, but the idea is actually like not far away. Like Radical allows us to have like a peer-to-peer code base sharing. So every developer on Omen, for example, has the project locally on their computer, and with Radical it just like enables anyone to like fetch the code via Radical, and it doesn't like. I think that could also be something for with like documentation, because those documents in Markdown could be in those Radical repositories, and we could actually like maybe make docs like a product for the Ethereum community where people can like push out, I don't know, gnosis.docs.eth with all the docs hosted on Radical. Like it's not far-fetched, but it's great to like start using docs just for us, and then think broader about like how we can help decentralize other projects with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great opportunity to help. Yeah.
I was going to say, these are all, in addition to like, you know, this is promoting decentralization fits, you know, with our product stack. It's also, you know, maybe a business opportunity as we're kind of getting at here, whether it's we're building a product that others will use, or, you know, as we're seeing maybe with Almanite and even Radical, how it's like a investment opportunity or a way for DXdao to support projects that we're aligned with, and also maybe participate in some of the upside.
Yeah, like just to point out an important factor, it's kind of funny, but in the next call next week with Radical, it is important that we, as the DXdao, have like a lot of people joining the call, because they're basically distributing the tokens per person. So the more people join from our side, the better, because then the DXdao will get more tokens. So it looks like a good amount of people would be 7. So if we would get like at least 7 people joining the call, preferable, of course, people who really want to use Radical. It looks like those this is mostly dev related. That would be great, just to, so first like we get the allocation, second the developers actually can ask questions to Radical and see where we're going together and what kind of deliverables we need to do to make sure Radical is moving forward and the DXdao is moving forward.
Let's confirm the people joining, so we don't just wait. I'm expecting developers to be joining. I would love to join, but last time I did, it was Mac OS only, right? So I couldn't actually help out on the beta. I'm guessing they didn't fix that.
I need to check. I expect they did not provide like a tool for Windows.
Geronimo, I think you had mentioned like everyone using the DAO's address, when like if the tokens are in the DAO, like we don't even know if they can be used for governance. Like it may be too difficult at this point. So in like having them in the individual's I don't know what Radical's plan is, but having them in the individuals' accounts that allow the individuals as part of the DXdao community participate in governance of Radical and be the users of the products, like, could potentially make more sense. Maybe there could be an extra allocation to DXdao, but individuals who are using it, like, should they have the tokens, like, so they can actually use the tokens to govern the protocol?
That's a good question. I expect that they didn't thought about governance right now. That's my gut feeling, but that's a good question for the call. Like, if they're giving out those governance tokens, then they probably have figured out how to use those tokens, right? I don't expect they use Snapshot, so I expect they use on-chain governance. But let's see. Like, I would say we should still go with the DXdao gets the tokens first, and if the DXdao can't participate, then we need to find another way.
Yeah, it's super cool. Decentralized GitHub with Radical, talking to Almanit about basically decentralized blogging with decentralized medium. Great to see this stuff.
Yeah, and those are very important partners. Not only, I think mainly for us, because we need those tools, and of course they're gonna appreciate that we are working with them together. So same with Almanite. Like, those teams share the same vision, and personally, I don't think there are a lot of teams who share our vision. So we need to work closely together with those teams who want to push decentralization forward.
Absolutely. Very cool. Other governance stuff, obviously the gas has been a hot topic with how expensive, different thoughts and people thinking about how to optimize our gas consumption, kind of like the overhead for DXdao is one way to think about it, since it reimburses proposal costs for the large part, not entirely. There's still some costs incurred by the voters themselves, but DXdao is covering the majority of it. And so it's sort of like this overhead cost. Quick update, like we have engaged with BlockRocket, which is a dev shop out of the UK, to build a payroll system, and they've actually started development there. That can potentially help us save some gas costs on worker proposals. We talked about using XDAI. So stuff like that is in the works. Definitely seems more urgent with 300 Gwei, $1,600 ETH. And so stay tuned on that. Another thing that's been in motion on the governance side is treasury diversification. There was an authorization proposal that passed saying that DXdao should move $3 million worth of ETH into stable coins, and specifying a few methods on how that can happen. It's in motion. I think there's already $200,000 or $300,000 of stable coins in the treasury, and a couple more proposals to keep moving there. And like I mentioned earlier, that Gnosis protocol relayer proposal, if that test works, then that's one of the methods. And probably the preferred method in the long run is how DXdao can directly make trades from the treasury using the relayer. It's just brand new, and so getting tested out there. But yes, big treasury diversification is a big issue. It's in motion. And then just a general reminder that next week on Thursday, we're alternating between these general recaps with resource coordination. And next week, to follow on from the roadmaps we saw last week from the product teams, we're going to be talking specifically about budgeting. That will be kind of the first and primary focus. And time permitting, we'll also address buyback, DXD buyback, and treasury management in general. So yeah, tune in next week, same time for that. Any other thoughts, questions, wrap up? We're actually still have a few minutes left here, but we can always end early.
Just one question for Radical. Do they have some MVP, or is it just idea as of now?
MVP's out. it has been tested for several weeks now. It was buggy, to say the least, but I think they're very focused of getting rid of those like major bugs. Right, but it is possible to. They have actually like a lot of improvements going on, specifically for mirroring the repositories. So it looks like it's actually like very easy already to make sure those repositories are online on Radical, so people can actually browse through repositories and clone them if they want to. So it's out there, it's usable, and I mean, it's so alpha. They don't even have pull requests feature, which is like the most important thing you need to have in code collaboration.
Yes.
But it looks like they're actually already working on it, and in a couple of weeks we can actually test it out. So in my view, it's a long process, but we need to create a second path, which we use as like an optional path until we see that GitHub is not the right place. Like GitHub is great and provides us a lot of value, but at some point we need to contribute to make sure that GitHub will be replaced by a decentralized network. And this is done right now. Like, it's crazy. Radical is actually the only solution right now. And the beauty is they're actually like very Ethereum fans. So all their like governance layer will be built on top of Ethereum, which fits perfectly with the DXdao, right? Like if the DXdao can decide who's like core contributor on Omen via like payroll system or whatever, that's already great. Like if we have all that stuff on chain, that's even more amazing. I mean, of course, not with the current gas prices, but yeah.
As developers, I think we forget how, how feature rich and how cool GitHub actually is and how much we rely on it. Like I think it's as a company, GitHub has been around for I think over a decade now, right? And it's a very well funded project. I think it's a long time before something like Radical can really catch up to GitHub from like a user perspective. But yeah, I think the right way to think about it for now is it's a backup, right? It's like what we need to know because GitHub is centralized because it's owned by Microsoft. Like we have backup infrastructure, and that hopefully someday will become the primary infrastructure.
Right, and it's also like what we always need to consider is all those services. They are like strong attack vectors. The bigger the DXdao gets, the bigger the attack vector gets on GitHub and stuff like that. Like once we have like this sounds crazy, but once we have like an Iranian code contributors, GitHub could like remove the whole repository, right? Like immediately, and we don't know what we will never get back the repository. That's like not acceptable. So we need to make sure, like we need to know why we do it. And that's basically to protect the DXdao.
There, you have on Keybase, you have Git, right? Like we could back all of the repositories to the Keybase Git.
That's a good point. And also worth noting, like, I mean, Git is already itself fairly distributed, right? Because you run it locally. So like a lot of these projects that we're working on are actually already living on, half a dozen people's machines, but it wouldn't hurt to, I've never looked at that tab on Keybase. Yeah, if you had asked me, I wouldn't have even known it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
See, this is why we're on Keybase. Look at the power.
I mean, didn't Linus invented like Git too, right? The guy who did Linux.
Yeah, Git itself is naturally distributed. Like everybody runs it locally. It's peer-to-peer. So you could even operate without GitHub. It just we've become very accustomed to basically the project management and collaboration features that GitHub has, like doing the pull request, the commenting, et cetera, forming the teams. But yeah. Martin points out that GitHub is overrated. You can't even export or import tickets.
Yeah, I mean, from a project management perspective, I don't think GitHub is good for non-developers. It works, but yeah.
Yeah, the project management aspects are sort of an afterthought, right, for GitHub.
I wish we could have a Kanban board on Keybase.
Do everything on Keybase. Reminds me of another project we haven't talked about in a while.
What?
Gives the U, ends the T.
Oh yeah, I forgot about. I saw them on something on Twitter recently. Someone else showing Urbit as a solution. It's great.
Yeah, you guys love right now, but soon Urbit will fix it.
Yeah, I love the idea. It would be cool to have Urbit.
We started testing Urbit, and we had some momentum, and then what happened? Is it not ready?
It is ready, but then, like, we work with Kenny from Urbit, and they gave us basically control of an account which wasn't in control of like the individuals, so no one had the private key to the account, and then you don't want to use that account because you're not in control, right? So I think that is an issue from my point of view. I don't want to use an account which I don't have the private key of. So yeah, once I have more time, I'm gonna do, like, on the weekends, I'm gonna check it out again. It looks amazing, actually, like seeing the progress made on landscape, which is the front end. They have like tons of improvements, and it gets to a point where it is fast, it works. Like, I remember 2 months ago, it was slow and it didn't work, but it looks like they improved a lot of stuff.
Should DXdao think about buying a Galaxy?
I mean, you don't need to go to reach that high. You can also just start buying a star or something.
Just 1 star?
Shoot for the moon. Shoot for the moon. Because if you land
don't
in the
reach
star,
too high. Start by reaching for the stars.
I mean,
that's
Galaxy.
What about a solar system?
There are no solar systems. There are planets, stars, and galaxies.
You think that's maybe one of the reasons why no one understands how to use it? Because they made up these random things that no one knows what they are?
Like, normal people don't need to know what stars and galaxies are. People who, like, I hope with the hosting, there will be like a one-click button where people pay like $25 per year, and then they just get like the Urbit experience without the need to know how the underlying stack works. I really hope Urbit is getting used, because I think the current internet is actually like broken, and we're getting all those like company controlled buckets where we fill our data in, and they do whatever they want with the buckets full of precious data. And Urbit allows you to create your own buckets and fill it and have control of your buckets. It's pretty simple.
the internet as it was meant to be.
I mean, it is nuts. We're kind of, you could see how we move towards a direction, how like products and services become more usable that are like decentralized, but at the same time, you see like the existing system, the existing world, like also move in that direction. You know, regardless of what you kind of think about both Robinhood and the Twitter and Trump, like you can just see how people are now thinking about these things a lot more. And I just, you could, it's the trend that is just, it's going to be happening, you know, regardless of what we're building here. And I think it's exciting to see how the world is moving in that direction. Just for necessity, people realize and understand the importance of it.
I think there will be a wave of right wingers going to other platforms. Like as there was someone predicted that Trump will create a media company and like a Twitter competitor, maybe even a Facebook competitor, but not in the same sense as Facebook is today, but just like he goes into war against like Twitter for doing what they did against him. And
is he going to get 100 million people to go over there?
I mean,
no.
It's either way.
He'll get his followers. The only way that it exists now is when you have that like existing system. I don't think that there's like short-term fixes to these. It's like literally you have to build a whole new stack like on top of it. And so I think it's, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just very early days in this, and people are just now like realizing it, and it'll take a while for the actual like application layer, I think, to emerge.
But it's good still. Like even if it fails, at least they debating and asking themselves like, why should Twitter be able to ban or shadow ban anyone as they wish?
Because it's a private company with its own terms of services.
Yeah, and that's
but Zeth's point is that it's like good that people are asking that and understanding it, right? And like that, it's the same thing with like Robinhood, for instance. Like, you know, we can talk about how great DeFi is all you want, but like people don't understand it until they can like see why it is different or like important in a way. And again, it's like Robinhood had, you know, margin legal reasons for do that, not to necessarily fault them, but it's just a way that people can comprehend and understand the difference.
Maybe we don't fault them, but maybe we fault the system there. I mean, I think people need to do a deep dive into the DTCC and how these trades are cleared, like what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Right.
I think when they realize how arbitrary it is, there's a strong, actually compelling case for DeFi.
Right. That's exactly it. Like it's like they find the breadcrumbs themselves.
I haven't thought about the DTCC in a while. That's something we thought about. Like one of the things blockchain should basically be replacing. Yeah. What does that even stand for? It's the
Depository Trust and Clearing
Corporation.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah. I mean, it's right. They just have like pieces of paper.
Sounds very centralized.
Oh, it's super. It's like literally the ultimate centralized. They're the only one. They're holding all of that, and we're still on T+2.
I was listening to what's his name from Vlad from Robinhood. He was getting kind of an on-the-spot interview from Elon Musk on an app called Clubhouse, and basically he was being asked questions about why they had to put up this collateral, and he wasn't really prepared for the response, to the point that he couldn't even explain exactly how the DTCC even made their decision in the first place.
People who don't know, T+2 is basically like time, like basically 2 days for things to settle. The DTCC, if I understand it right, is like basically the entity behind the scenes, at least in the United States, if not further reaching, that basically settles trades, right? Or make sure that trades are settled, and cleared.
I mean, who ultimately has the stock certificate, right? And so like you could say like Robinhood has like, okay,